IDE plugins, the JFrog CLI for security, and FrogBot. We've already discussed all the various offerings for the JFrog security platform when it comes to supply chain. We talked about software bill of materials. We talked about vulnerabilities. We talked about malicious packages and operational risk. We talked about licensing. We even talked about advanced security features in SAST. We talked about contextual analysis, advanced security detection, application exposures, service exposures, infrastructure as code analysis, and of course, SAST. Why do I bring this up? Because not only are these tools in the user interface and the API, but they're also available to you in our JFrog CLI, our IDE plugins, and our FrogBot. So first of all, remember, when we talk about things, we need to understand the differences between static application security testing and static composition analysis. Software composition analysis is the components that make up the open source pieces that are utilized as third-party transitive dependencies, both direct and indirect, where SAST analyzes the code, makes sure that the developer is developing the way they should, that patterns match certain ways, that they're not exposing any secrets or doing anything malicious around the code that they're doing unintentionally in most cases. So part of the responsibility of a developer, and we talked about this earlier also, is the fact that it's always better to have the defensive mechanisms around your software development processes at the developer level, or shift left, and instead of fixing them in their production, which could cost you 100 times more and your organization can spin their wheels. It's always better to make sure that the developer is constantly informed of the things that they're utilizing. So first of all, when we talk about existing tools that are out there in the market, it's a massively competitive landscape, but most of them have a lot of disadvantages. They're point solutions, and the thing is that they're not associated to the actual dependencies that are being utilized, because once again, because of Artifactory and X-Ray and their tight-knit approach, it allows you to not only maintain the components you're using, but also understand if there's anything malicious. And the same thing comes along with tools for SAST. A lot of them are slow. They need to do external processing. They flood the actual, component data back to the developer. They're kind of outdated in most cases. And a lot of times they're very shallow. Even with some of the native tooling that is out there, there are native tool sets for certain application package types. And the thing is a lot of times it misses some obvious ones, and also too, it usually involves some sort of external ruling. So with SAST, and the thing is you have the first-party software, which is where static code analysis usually comes into play. This is what you're developing. This is the stuff that 10%, 5 to 10% at the top of the iceberg, and then the third-party software, right? The thing is that by covering both, you actually get the ability to see, am I using any potentially nefarious components? And am I building my software correctly? Now layer that in with the rest of the things that come along with things like advanced security, such as secret detection, or if you're building things like infrastructure as code, that's the thing. And then we layer in for those third-party solutions. We talked about contextual analysis and how important it is for organizations to be able to focus on the CVEs that matter and the ones that don't. So with contextual analysis and giving it to the developer in the IDE or the CLI or FrogBot, when we talk about it, gives them the ability to figure out what's important, what's really affecting them, and spend the time and also save money and effort over time. That's the biggest thing. And we talked about the Gartner report in a current, Forrester report, in a previous version, we talked about a 393% return on investment. Well, part of that is having that defensive mechanism where it matters most. And SAST also helps. Not only are those third-party transitive dependencies in question, but also too this, software, that they're building. Understanding that first-party software, are they configuring it and things like that. So understanding that, we bring the IDE information directly to the developer where it really, really, really matters. So like IntelliJ, Visual Studio, Eclipse, and then with our CLI also too, you can get the same kind of effect. So if any of your teams, and by the way, if you're using any of the variants of IntelliJ, any of the variants of Eclipse, it's covered in there also. And the thing is by having the developers have the tools, have the means to address those security concerns where it matters, it means that you'll be making faster, safer, more secure software. And the shift left capabilities integrated in, like I said, also bring a lot of the cool stuff that we brought over, such as contextual analysis and other tool sets. Are there any potential, secrets being revealed, access tokens, plain text, plain text passwords. We see it all the time. And the thing is, your developers now will be aware of it so they can address it first. They can address it where it matters. And on top of that, we bring that same level of protection with our JFrog CLI, secret detection, contextual analysis, and the infrastructure as code. This is also available in the CLI, so if they're not using an IDE, they might be using Emacs or Vi or something like that, they can go in and address it too. And then we also layer that in with our product called FrogBot. And FrogBot connects to, GitHub. It connects to Bitbucket. It can connect to a couple of other various SCMs. But what it means is that when a customer does a pull request or they're checking code in, FrogBot can actually run and bring that same level of detail to the end user. When they look at it, they could do static code analysis. They could do software composition analysis, secret detection, and all that. It's all presented as part of it. Picture it as being, you always hear the songs like Dependabot for Git, same thing. The idea is something that's much more robust. It's much more expedient. And we can also, when we start using things, say you're using a laptop and you're doing your development, we can do thousands of lines of code, right, per second. It's incredible because all the functionality is run in a more effective and efficient process, by the way we designed it. So you have protection for static code analysis, also to software composition analysis, and all the other features that come along with our advanced security, our standard X-ray security also. Thank you very much.